What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Prop Wiz. I'm your host, Wiz. Last night, they dropped the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka on Disney+. Of course, I had to come here and tell you guys my thoughts. And you probably already know how this goes. 9 times out of 10, it's positive, and in the case of Ahsoka, that's still true. I absolutely love this show. I'm a big lightsaber head. There was plenty of lightsaber action and the promise of more lightsaber action to come. So basically, they got me at hello, or they got me at lightsaber. I don't know, you figure it out. Anyways, as far as this show, I'm not gonna deep dive into spoilers. I'm not gonna get real detailed with the plot. A couple of the things that I mentioned might be spoilerish, so I'm just warning you now. There might be spoilers, especially if you're someone that's very sensitive to spoilers. Make sure you go check out the show and head back this way to check out my thoughts on the episodes. The show was good, man. If you love The Mandalorian, you'll probably love this. You can tell that they took the groundwork, the framework of Mandalorian and applied it to this. But then again, in reality, Dave Filoni directed, I believe he directed the first 2 episodes. I know for a fact he directed the first episode, but we know that this is Dave Filoni's baby in general. Dave Filoni was the producer on The Clone Wars as well as Rebels. And of course, he was the co-producer along with Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian. So Dave Filoni pretty much knows what he's doing. And all the things Dave Filoni have touched has been the most Star Wars things, period, since George Lucas. That's not to say that we don't have other dope Star Wars properties. I personally love everything that comes out of Star Wars, but I also know shows like Andor and of course the movie Rogue One was shining points. I don't think Dave Filoni was really involved with those, but those 2 things are really different than every other Star Wars thing. Like I really feel like a lot of people like those because of how different or how realistic or how grounded or whatever the case may be. Those are loved because of how different they are from the rest of the Star Wars. So that's dope, and I'm glad we got a world where that exists. I personally do love both of those shows. Andor took me a little while to get into, but I did end up loving it. But facing the reality, I grew up with Star Wars since day one. So we talking New Hope all the way to Return of the Jedi. Those first 3 movies, man, that's it. So that's the magic I be looking for to recapture. That feeling, that nostalgia feeling is what I'm looking for most of the time when I'm looking at these. So again, enjoy the surprises, but love Star Wars. That's where Dave Filoni comes in, man. He's just real good at capturing that classic Star Wars feel, as well as pushing some things, changing some things, especially when it comes to things. I mean, like details like the Force. Like he finds different ways to use the Force that might not have been in the old movies, but feel like it's very traditional, very honoring what George Lucas did. So, hey, Ahsoka is no different, man. It just feels like classic Star Wars. All the way from the music, man, the score was just perfect. And some of the scenes, man. The opening scene actually starts out with some of the Sith lords. I'm assuming they're Sith, right? Because they got the red sabers, they got the gear, but they never really say that they were Sith.
We are no Jedi.
But in my opinion, it was clear that they were using the Sith powers. The opening was strong. Actors were dope. The introduction of Ahsoka. Ahsoka had a cool little action scene. So all this is happening at the beginning, man. So nice little bit of action and cool scenes at the beginning. Ahsoka, they putting her out there, man. They've already, I felt like the last 2 episodes of the Clone Wars showed her as being one of the greatest Jedis. This is continuing this, man. This is some of the dopest Jedi scenes that they've shown on screen, I believe live action wise anyway. The story seems good so far. It's hard to tell. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but it looks like they're going to have a pretty steady story throughout the whole series. So I'm really hoping there's no filler episodes here and there. You never know. Disney Plus with these Star Wars shows, it seemed like there might be one that they might throw in there. But the way they're laying out the story so far, it looked like there's a clear vision on where they're going to go from start to finish. She is on a mission, and that mission is connecting everything, as well as centering Ahsoka. It's also bringing in characters like Sabine, Hera, like all these characters from Rebels are coming in. Got my boy Chopper in there, man, who's super dope. Man, so far it's pretty good, man. The first 2 episodes, I was going to do a video for each episode, but I felt like the first 2 episodes felt like a complete story. Not a complete story. There's not an ending, but it really flowed. Again, hopefully the whole series is like that, but episode 1 and 2 definitely flowed very well. If you take out the credits, it would have felt like a little movie. The visual effects are top notch. I mean, top notch. Motion picture level. Visuals. Again, all the acting is dope. Rosario Dawson, she's already proven herself as Ahsoka. The young lady that's playing Sabine, let me see what her name is. All right, Natasha Liu Bordizzo. Hopefully I ain't jacking her name up. Man, she was cool. We really hadn't seen a lot of her. She's the only character she felt a little bit different. Her and Hera kind of felt different than their animated counterparts. But not to the point where it was distracting. That's me just nitpicking. I just completed the Rebels cartoon. I rewatched it to prepare for this. Hey, matter of fact, along that note, I don't think you have to watch Rebels to get into this. It looked like they start very, very simple. Like I say, they lay out the mission. In fact, it starts with the old school scroll telling us exactly what's going on, where Ahsoka is. Very, very reminiscent of the Star Wars movie. So that was cool. Even the opening with the I don't know if it was yellow or not, but it had the little scroll that was cool. So it lets you know the pieces that you need to know to jump into this. So if you haven't seen Rebels, you're good. With that being said, Rebels is probably one of the, again, I already said, man, it's probably one of the dopest Star Wars properties right next to Clone Wars and the original trilogy. Dude, if you hadn't seen Rebels, man, you're missing out, yo. You got Darth Vader in there in a few episodes. You got the Emperor doing some cool things. Like everything that was in the classic Star Wars is in Rebels and a lot more, man. In fact, you got the death of, I ain't even gonna tell you that because you need to go see it. Go check out Rebels. With that being said, you don't have to see it, but I'm glad I rewatched it, man. I watched the last episode, had a character named Ryder that was in the last episode that was voiced by my boy Clancy Brown. Clancy Brown, y'all probably know him from Pet Sematary 1. He was the cop. He also played the bad guy in the first Highlander movie. For you real geeks, the geeks like me, you probably know him from Lex Luthor. He does Lex Luthor voice on The Adventures of Superman. He also does SpongeBob's boss's job, I think in Mr. Krabs. That's the only voice he does that doesn't sound like him, but cool little fact, he does that voice. Anyway, he did the voice of this Ryder character in the last episode of Rebels, and he actually physically played the character in the show. So that was pretty cool, man, that you had some of these characters, which Star Wars has been doing that where they can, right? Kate, that the old girl that played in The Mandalorian, the female Mandalorian, you know, same kind of thing, man. She did the voice. So I like that they're able to do that where they can. So that was a pleasant surprise. So there was a couple of things that really, really connected the cartoon to the movie or to the TV show and vice versa. And like I said, just those two characters, Hera and Sabine, were, I don't even want to say off because they did an awesome job and just slightly different. But again, this is years later as well. So these characters are in a different place than they were when we last seen them in Rebels. The other two that really stood out to me was Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. I believe her name was Shin. Well, she was the apprentice. So you had Baylan and his apprentice, man. Both of them characters are dope. We got some real cool lightsabers, especially his apprentice, man. She's kind of potent so far. But anyways, I don't want to go into too much detail, just to say that I like it. I think it's a good start, a very, very strong start for the series. I'm sure there's going to be haters out there. I'm just trying to sit back and just see what y'all going to say. So far, I feel like this is a perfect show. I think Mandalorian is still reign supreme, but Mandalorian has the more freedom to kind of do the episodic thing. So he can kind of have that ongoing mission, but have each episode feel different. You know, it had a Western feel, a TV show Western feel, which absolutely works for Mandalorian. I think is one of the things that make that dope. This is different than that, and that kind of difference I don't mind. There's some things in terms of quality, writing, the visual effects, and just the overall Star Wars feel is the things that I want to stay the same. And Ahsoka is doing that. It feels like it's in the same world as Mandalorian. The overall story arc and how they're moving forward is a little bit different, at least so far. But I'm digging it, man. I think it's dope. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka. If you've seen it, please let me know what you think. Leave some comments, man. Tell me what you think, yo. Tell me if I'm wrong. And while you're digging around on my page, if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you like the video, hit that like button. As always, I love you guys to death, and I'll check you out next time, all right? Peace.